good evening ma'am. This is my video discussion about the module 13, which is the preparation of ballistic report. First, let me introduce myself. I am Marquibin Bisoblimenti from Bachelor of Science in Criminology, 4th year Bravo. So, ballistic report is a writing significant to the success and failure of the case in a court. So, the objective of the ballistic report is to prosecute and precisely to convict the accused and give justice to the victim. Hence, it will be fatal on the side of the prosecution if there is a blatant, irreconcilable, and inconsistent or error committed by the forensic firearm examiner. So, whose testimony is repugnant or it can contradict to these findings and conclusions. Then the definitions of ballistic report. This is a type writing report after the critical study of the specimen, physical examination, and observation of secretions through the bullet comparison microscope. So the report writing is a basic activity in police work. Thus, for every police action, there must be corresponding report reactions. Then let us proceed for the preparation of report. So the forensic examiner or forensic firearm examiner, before preparing a ballistic report in report writing, he should have already an idea to include the familiarizations of 6 points of investigations. So one of these is the ascertain whether particular firearm submitted or ballistics examination is in working conditions. So this includes also the examination of the said firearm, whether it was recently fired, and is a subject the examinations by the chemistry section. When a firearm is submitted for the examination, it is important to know whether the condition of the firearm is serviceable. It is also important that in a misfired ammunition, it should be compared with the test-fired ammunitions. So, since there is a firing pin tip marks create in a misfired cartridge. So, while there are static or exerted force mark on the test cartridge case and the fragmentized bullet, a part of it is submitted to the forensic firearm examiner to determine if the fragment is a part of a bullet. At the same time, take note of of the individual characteristic of the firearm and compared it with the recognized standard. So there are 7 problem or a purpose in a firearm identifications. So number 1 is submitted 1 bullet to determine the caliber of the firearm from which the bullet was fired. The number 2 is the submitted 1 shell, so to determine the caliber of the firearm was from which the shell was fired. For the number 3 is the submitted 2 bullet and determining the caliber of the firearm from which the 2 bullets were fired, and determine whether the 2 bullets were fired from one and the same firearms. Then number 4 is the submitted 2 shells, so to determine the caliber of the firearm from which the 2 shells were fired, and to determine whether the 2 shells were fired from one and the same firearms. Then for the number 5 is submitted firearm and 1 bullet. So the purpose is to determine whether or not the bullet was fired from the suspected firearms. Then for the number 6 is the submitted firearm and 1 shell. So to determine whether or not the shell was fired from the suspected firearms. Then the last is the submitted firearms only. So to determine the serviceability of the suspected firearms. So this is it, the important parts of the ballistic report writing. So number 1, the ballistic report number. Then the number 2 is the time and date received. Then the time and date complete. The number 4 is the specimen submitted. Then the findings or the findings. Then the last is the conclusions. So all of that is the important parts of the ballistic report writing. So for the purpose of writing ballistic report, so to provide a permanent record in the information obtaining in the course of the examinations of the case. So to communicate and informations obtaining in the examination of the case, especially the result. So to provide other investigator with the result and furnish evidence as the basis for the continuations of the investigations, to gather additional physical evidence, to give the opportunity for the chief in reviewing the case and work of the forensic firearm examiner in determining whether the examination is properly developed. Then to provide the proper authorities with a record of the fact of the crime. Then the name of the perpetrators, name and the address of the witness, and then the natures and location of the physical evidence. Then the other matters pertaining to the crimes. So this is the cardinal principle in the report writing. So number 1 is the accuracy. Number 2 is the completeness. Number 3 is the brevity. Number 4 is the fairness, impartiality. Then the last is the form and style.